ChatGPT Voice lets you have a real conversation with AI. You simply talk, it listens, and it responds out loud. And once you start using it this way, you'll probably realize that some tasks are actually easier by speaking than by typing. If you've ever felt like writing the perfect prompt slows you down, this feature might completely change how you use AI. Think about what happens when most people type. They usually shorten their thoughts because typing takes effort. A prompt might say, write a parent email about AI. That's enough to get an answer, but it's missing a lot of context. Now imagine saying the same request out loud. You might say, I need to write a parent email explaining that our teachers are beginning to use AI. Parents might be worried about cheating, privacy, and screen time. I want the tone to be calm and reassuring. Keep it short, practical, and avoid technical language. That's how we naturally communicate. Without even trying, you've given ChatGPT far more information to work with, which usually leads to a much better response. And that's where most people discover the real value of voice, not because speaking is easier, but because speaking helps you think more completely. Voice is especially useful when your hands are busy or when you're trying to think through an idea instead of simply asking for information. Imagine driving to work and talking through tomorrow's faculty meeting, or taking a walk while brainstorming lesson ideas. Maybe you're preparing for an important conversation with a teacher, rehearsing a presentation, or trying to organize your thoughts before writing an email. Instead of waiting until you're back at your computer, you can simply start talking. ChatGPT can help you organize your thinking, ask follow up questions, suggest different approaches, or turn your rough ideas into a polished first draft. It becomes more like a thinking partner than just a writing tool. This is one of the reasons I find voice so valuable. So much of leadership starts with unfinished ideas. I might say, help me think through tomorrow's staff meeting. Or, what should I say to a teacher who's anxious about AI? Maybe it's turn this idea into a short announcement or ask me questions to help me plan next week's workshop. Those aren't polished prompts, they're conversations. And that's exactly where voice shines. It captures your thinking before it disappears and helps you shape it into something useful. You can also use voice for practicing difficult conversations, translating languages, asking follow up questions without constantly stopping to type, or even explaining a document or image when screen sharing is available. Instead of thinking of ChatGPT as something you write to, start thinking of it as something you can talk with. That simple shift opens up a lot of new possibilities. Now, you might wonder what's actually happening behind the scenes. Earlier voice assistants, including earlier versions of ChatGPT Voice, worked like a relay race. First, your speech was converted into text. Then the AI generated a text response. Finally, that response was converted back into speech. It worked, but information could get lost along the way. Things like emotion, tone of voice, multiple speakers, or background sounds weren't always preserved very well. Today's ChatGPT Voice works differently. OpenAI built GPT-4o as a multimodal model that can understand text, images, and audio together. Instead of treating speech as something that first has to become text, the model is designed to reason across these different forms of information more directly. You don't need to understand the technical details to benefit from it. What matters is that conversations tend to feel faster, more natural, and more like talking with someone who understands the flow of a real discussion instead of processing one sentence at a time. The biggest takeaway isn't that ChatGPT can talk, plenty of technology can do that. The real advantage is that voice removes the friction between your ideas and the AI. Instead of stopping what you're doing to craft the perfect prompt, you simply start talking. You explain your situation naturally, just as you would to a trusted colleague. That usually gives ChatGPT richer context, better information, and ultimately better results. If you've only been typing into ChatGPT, I encourage you to spend a week using voice instead. Brainstorm while you're walking. Rehearse your next presentation. Talk through a problem that's been on your mind. You may discover that the best prompts aren't written at all, they're spoken.